What's up, guys? Danielle Avari from VSiN here with Calvin Wetzel. We are still breaking down all of the March Madness bracket on the women's side here and going to Seattle 3 region. Again, just 2 areas for the regionals. So for this one, Seattle 3, Virginia Tech is the 1 seed versus 16 seed Chattanooga. I have Virginia Tech advancing here.
Yep, this one as well. No 116s
We don't
this
need to
year.
get cute.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. But if we go below that, we have the 8 and 9 matchup here, USC, which I think is so funny because that's also applies to University of South Carolina. So in the women's side, especially, you'll see this listed as Southern Cal more. But I think on the men's side, we see USC and we do associate that with the Trojans in Los Angeles. But that is who we're talking about here, the USC Trojans in Los Angeles, the 8 seed, taking on the 9 seed South Dakota State. And just because South Dakota State, that's what I think.
Yeah. Oh, you picked against a Pac-12 team. How about that?
Yeah, this one in particular.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I wonder why. Me too.
No bias.
I'm going
Oh,
against
see,
the
good. At
Pac-12
least we have the numbers
again.
behind it too.
Yep. Yeah. South Dakota State's just straight up better team. This is the single 8-9 matchup in my opinion that is the most lopsided. It's lopsided towards the 9. I think South Dakota State's gonna be favored by 6 or 7 in this matchup. So they're a really good team that a lot of people don't know about. I got them coming out of this one.
All right. If we look at the next one, we have 5 seed Iowa State versus 12 seed Toledo. I have Iowa State here. I like this Iowa State team. What do you think?
I do have Iowa State. This is a popular 12-5 as well. Toledo fighting Lockets, or should I say Rockets? But Iowa State is another team that I think is starting to play really well again. They just won the Big 12 tournament championship, so I got them coming out of this one.
They lost 5 of their final 9 regular season games, but kind of picked things back up in the Big 12. What was going on at the end of the season for them there?
Yeah, well, they had their big Stephanie Suarez got hurt, and they took a little while to adjust to not having her in the paint. But on both ends, big shot blocker, really impacted the offense as well, and she could step out and shoot threes. So they had to sort of re-figure out who they were without her, but I think they're finally getting there.
Torn ACL for her, and last year Iowa State made it to the Sweet 16. We'll see if they can get a little further this time. If we look at the next matchup here, 4 seed Tennessee versus St. Louis, the 13 seed. I have Tennessee advancing here. Again, I really like the toughness of this Tennessee team.
Yeah, I've kind of been down on Tennessee for a lot of the year, but I do think they're actually a really tough 4 seed. St. Louis maybe a little
But that's
overseeded.
common, right? They had high expectations at the start of the season, and I don't think they lived up to them, is my understanding.
No, they were picked, I want to say 5th, 4th or 5th, top 5 AP preseason poll. Dropped out of that pretty quickly. Dropped out of the poll entirely for a while. But St. Louis is just not a tough 13 seed. Rebecca Tillett's a great story. They're 17-17. They started out the season, I want to say 3-10, something like that. Dug themselves a huge hole. Went on a run towards the end of the season, but this spread is going to be pushing 20 on this one. This is going to be the most lopsided 4 versus 13. So St. Louis could have easily been a 15 seed. I see Tennessee coming out of this one.
So least likely to be an upset as far as the 4 and 13s go.
Definitely.
We move further down. We have 6 North Carolina versus 11, which is going to possibly be Purdue, is what I'm predicting here. And I have Purdue upsetting North Carolina. What do you think?
Wow, I could see it. I could see it. I do have North Carolina coming out of this one. I got Purdue beating St. John's though. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Purdue's another team in the Big Ten that they had a really tough schedule, and we've seen some ups and downs from them. But this will be a good game, I think. If Purdue, well, both of them, but if Purdue gets out of the first 4 versus St. John's.
Okay. What about the Ohio State, number 3 seed versus 14 seed James Madison? I have Ohio State advancing, and I also think Ohio State could be kind of a sleeper team in this bracket that could make a deeper run than I'm even putting them at.
They could. We've seen Ohio State is the epitome of a team that we've seen play. We see them get up to number 2 in the country, and then we've seen them go 6-7 in their last 13 games. So
yeah,
a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. They have J.C. Sheldon back. Their press can really frustrate some teams when it's at its best. I definitely see them beating James Madison here.
Yeah, I also have them, of course, winning the next round as well, but I have them losing to UConn, which we'll circle back to. Let's look at Baylor, Alabama first. So 7 seed Baylor versus 10 seed Alabama. I like Baylor in this matchup. I like that fast offense.
I'm going against you on this one. I have Alabama. I'm going with Alabama's defense.
Okay.
But I think this is going to be a really, really close 7-10. and it wouldn't be surprised me if either team won. But we've seen Baylor kind of struggle down the stretch here. We saw them drop out of the rankings for the first time in like 15 years, was it? I think the longest streak in the country,
Wow.
or second longest.
Since 2009-10, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of a down year for them. Obviously, still a very tough team, but Alabama, I have thought for basically all year that they've been really underrated, and I still think they are. So I'm going with them.
Second time in the tournament for the Crimson Tide in the last 3 years, but only their second time in the NCAA tournament. So that is interesting. Finally, we have UConn versus Vermont in the last matchup here. UConn, the 2 seed, easily could have been a 1 seed, it seems like. And you've talked about Azzi Fudd coming back. So where do you see UConn going in this bracket?
Definitely beating Vermont. Yeah, like you said, since AZ came back, she's been coming off the bench.
AZ, thank you.
Yep, but even off the bench, she's having a huge impact. And UConn just needed bodies on the bench. They were playing with 7 players for a while. So whether she starts or on the bench, big addition for them. Really rough February. They've been great in March. And so you guys, where I have them in the whole bracket, I have them coming out of this region in the Final Four.
As do I. I have them beating Virginia Tech in the Elite Eight, which is a 1 versus 2 matchup. And I just realized all of my Elite Eights are 1-2 matchups. So I'm sorry. It's so chalky.
That is chalky, but hey, we talked about it. Sometimes you don't want to get too crazy, especially on the women's side.
Don't overthink it. UConn, yeah. And also, if UConn didn't make it, I think they're going for their 15th straight year to a Final Four. So this would be a bad record to break if that was the case.
Yeah, it's been a decade and a half, and I'll believe it when I see it. I'll put it that way. UConn missing a Final Four.